from Parna, Sarkar-Basu, and she's from Brandon Buzz Marketing. So Parna is a tech evangelist. She serves as a strategic advisor to transformational leaders and technology partners and helps them to launch and reinvent companies. This includes changing industry perception, building market relevance, corporate positioning, and new market entry, as well as helping companies to raise funds and navigate the digital era. She's received multiple awards and has been instrumental in turning experts into thought leaders, propelling tech companies into innovation leaders into highly competitive markets, including AI, enterprise software, storage system, robots, and consulting services. She has contributed to Forbes, so we will give you a link to her great article, and she hosts regular executive sessions on emerging technologies and speaks on a wide range of topics to include those in the workforce. She's a champion of STEM and innovation, and Parna builds and supports her program to inspire future innovators and entrepreneurs. She's also an advisor to women leaders in the US and the UK and serves as the VP of brand marketing for WITI, which is Women in Technology International. So that being said, I want to turn it over to Parna, and thank you so much for being with us today. And I think this is a great topic that all of us can learn and apply to our current career. So Parna, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Chico, for that lovely introduction. I'm truly humbled. And thank you so much to everybody who has joined us today. I'm joining you from Boston. It's a lovely day here, and I would love to know where you guys are joining from. So I don't know if there is a chat option, but do introduce yourself when you have a moment. So today we're going to talk about why and how you can boost your digital presence online. So I just wanted to share a little bit about my personal journey very quickly. Like every immigrant, I came to this country with 2 suitcases, didn't have a network. I came here to join my husband, who was doing his PhD at MIT. And it was tough getting started. Needless to say, I didn't have a network, didn't know anybody, didn't have family. But to make a long story short, I was finally able to join the corporate world in the tech industry. And very quickly, I was part of the executive team. And in the beginning, I was extremely proud to be, sitting around the table with a whole bunch of men and the only woman executive. Very quickly, I realized that needs to change. And therefore, I became a strong advocate of women in technology, and also working with schools and organizations to build STEM programs. About 2 years ago, I decided to launch my company, Brandon Buzz, and one of the primary things that I launched the company for was to help women entrepreneurs, to help women in business and women leaders have a voice, be seen, be heard in the world as best as I can. So that's kind of my career journey, so to speak. So thank you again for being here. So today, what I wanted to share with you was some examples of what brand building and thought leadership looks like, at least from my perspective, and what we do for our clients and executive, obviously. Also give you some actionable tips that even if you have a solid digital brand, but how can you build it further? And hopefully you can leverage some of those tips. And of course, we'll take questions as they come, and I'll let Chico drive that. So the first thing I would ask is, why, I'm just gonna shut my screen here. Why do we need to stand out? So one of the things we know very clearly is that as part of our career success, performance is important. This is what you do every day to deliver results, to manage your team, to do what you need to do to get the job done. And then there is the other part, which is the image. What others think of you? What is your personal brand? What's your attitude? What kind of problems are you solving? And then the third component is the exposure. You may be awesome at what you do. Your boss may know what you do, but who else knows about your expertise? And I think that is from this research, and there's a lot more out there, it's the exposure that's really critical to building your personal brand and building your thought leadership. However, a lot has changed. The things that we used to do even 3 months ago, we are definitely not quite doing them. The competition is fierce, irrespective of which industry you are in. The stakes are high, especially because of the pandemic, the economy in shambles, so to speak. However, from where I sit, I also see this as an opportunity. So if I look at from your perspective as security professionals, and let's say we just look at the physical security market alone. If you look at the global data that we're looking at, by 2027, this is going to be a 170 plus billion opportunity, a billion market. So imagine all the opportunities that are out there, whether you are doing a career transition, whether you're looking for a promotion, you are a consultant, or you want to launch your own business. The opportunities are absolutely out there. So how do we take advantage of that? And in order to do that, you also need to be discovered by people. You also want the people to know about your awesomeness. We live in the digital world, as we know. Even, I think it was an Accenture report, if I recall correctly, they said that the whole digital era has kind of fast forwarded to, by 5 years. So right now, given the quarantine, the pandemic, most of us have been working from home, and we've all been online, we've been on social, and we have been building our digital footprint. However, during the pandemic, as we've been home, I suspect almost all of us have had to pivot. We've had to reinvent ourselves, and we had to kind of go above the noise because everybody is online today. So how do you want to be remembered in this digital world? What is your digital footprint going to look like? And what's your digital portrait going to be? And when I talk about digital portrait, it's when people talk about you or they find you on, whether it's a podcast, on your articles, your website, talking to you, how are they going to remember you? So again, in the digital world, it's important to be discovered, it's important to be remembered, and therefore everything that we do needs to build out our physical, our digital footprint. I guess it's not physical quite this much now, with not much in-person events happening. So I look at personal branding a little differently. We look at personal branding from a thought leadership perspective. And as Chico mentioned, one of our expertise really is turning experts into thought leaders, or how I like to call it, turning experts into rock stars. And when we talk about thought leadership, one of the misconceptions that I have heard often is that, I'm not a CEO of a company. I may not be working in a very cool industry, or I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a millionaire. How am I going to be a thought leader? In my mind, everybody can be a thought leader. A thought leader, to me, is an expert and authority in the industry. And to be a thought leader, you need to make yourself credible. You need to build trust with your peer group, with the influencers, with your client base, and you need to build relationships. Often we'll see people are trying to sell things. When they connect with you online, they're like, oh, hey, I do X. Would you like to buy my service? Or do you want to check out my product? But we live in the world of social, what we call social selling. And that's where education and building relationship and building trust and credibility are key. So let me share with you a couple of examples. So one of the things that we do for our clients is build unique positioning for each individual. And that unique positioning is really tied to the person and the personality and less with the company. Because oftentimes if you're tied to a company, which is great because you're getting all the support of the brand and the marketing team, but when you leave for a different position or you start your company, you want to become a security freelance expert, then you kind of get stuck in that corporate brand. So we build individual brands and positioning, as we call it. So these are just some examples. So taking Steve on the left side, he was branded as a CX connoisseur, so that's customer engagement. And this is kind of, there's a long process that I go through to position each one of the individuals. But one of his key expertise throughout his career was customer engagement. He even started his own entrepreneurial journey at the age of 17 when he was in high school. So anyway, so that's his positioning, and everything that we do related to Steve is tied to customer engagement. Whether he's writing or speaking or doing a panel, it's around customer experience. So it could be customer experience during a pandemic, customer experience in an omni-channel world, how to improve customer engagement. So everything is related to customer engagement. And his signature program, which is a podcast, is also called The Science of CX. So this is just an example of how we position them and then start building out their profile and executing on it. This is to kind of show you that visual brand is just as important. And Barbara Clark is a tech investor. And this is literally hot off the press because we finalized her positioning and the visual just last Friday. So you are seeing it for the first time. And the reason I bring this up is to make the point that image and visuals are just as important as part of your branding. But if you're interested, keep an eye on her profile and her LinkedIn, Twitter pages, because you're going to start seeing us execute on this branding, and hopefully you can get to see how it's going to be rolled out. And the last piece that I wanted to show you was that, so yes, we position you, we build your brand, we execute, we also create custom programs to spotlight the thought leaders. So these are just some examples of programs that we've created to spotlight some of the clients that we work with. And of course, the first couple, you can see those as screenshots. But I would say since March 11, that's when we shut down here in Boston, I think we've created, participated, and built almost 50 virtual events. And primarily all of that was to showcase our thought leaders. So just want you to know. Anyway, so this is kind of a glimpse into how we build thought leaders or turn experts into thought leaders. So let's talk about you now. So like I mentioned before, you may already have a presence in the market, in the digital world, and whether you are, let's say you're in the physical security space, for example, and you could be a specialized corporate security professional or personal or intellectual security expert. But when you're trying to build your presence, especially now when the world is online, I suggest you be absolutely laser focused on the 4 points here. Rethink or reimagine or revisit why you want to boost your digital presence. Perhaps it's a career transition. Like I said before, you could be looking for a job, you're looking for a promotion, you're looking to start your own security consulting business, or you want to grow your company. What is your expertise? Again, physical, I'm kind of using physical security as a broad category here, but I'm sure there are very, much more specifics underneath. So you as the expert should decide, what is the specialty that you're going to focus on? Who's your target audience is just as important. So you are building your profile, but who should find you? Who would be the executives or the leaders who would be looking to hire you or your services? It could be the C-suites and or the hiring managers. So do absolutely be sure who you want to target. And also very critical is how much time do you want to devote to building your personal profile? I know people who spend 50% of their time in building out their profile and having a presence online, trying to get more business. I personally allocated 2 hours a month, and that's because my way of building my brand is literally just writing my article in Forbes. Unfortunately, since March, I've actually not been able to meet my goal. But anyway, so my point here is know why you want to have a digital presence and be totally laser focused as you build it. The second point I would say is pick your platform. Not everybody likes to write. Not everybody wants to do podcasts. You may be very good with videos, but it's also how much time that you want to devote on building your brand. What is your comfort zone? So as I said, for me, writing is my comfort zone because it's fast. I can do it anytime, and I don't have to edit and worry about production if it's a video. So know what your expertise is and then pick the platform. And there's a whole bunch of them that you can choose from. Step 3 is listen. Now that you know how you want to position yourself, it's also important to know what's happening in the industry. What are the trends that's shaping, whether it's about saving, securing people or property or information, or whatever the asset is that you will be securing. What are the challenges people are talking about? So again, this is obviously, you are the expert, I'm not, but I suspect with COVID, a lot has changed, even in your industry, whether you are securing schools or you're securing an executive. There are so many more guidelines that you have to worry about. There's social distancing. So there's a whole list of things I'm sure that you have to worry about in addition to everything that you've been trained for. So therefore, listen, see what's critical, where the needs are, and where you can share your expertise. I would also then say, what do you do with all the content that you're planning to create? Publishing is extremely important. And as members of ASIS, you have an awesome platform right here. If you are writing, you'll be able to hopefully, and I hope I'm not overstepping here and guidelines are accepted. But if that's the case, then you like to write, and why not see if your article might be published here? If you're doing a podcast, would you be invited to be a guest? So you have right here some of the resources that you can tap into. The other one obviously is LinkedIn, because as you write your articles or you're creating your content, that's one place to quickly post the content. Now, creating original content, as we know, is time-taking. You spend a lot of blood, sweat, and maybe often tears as you write your article. So once it's published, look for ways where you can repurpose your content to reach a broader audience. So a platform like Medium, it's free. There are a lot of different categories that you can pick from, and just become a member and go ahead and repurpose the content that you're creating. And then the final piece I would say is engage and educate. It's really about being helpful. Your brand, the value that you bring to the people, to questions that are being asked. And again, as members of ASIS, you already have a platform that you can all connect with each other, share your expertise. So I would say definitely take advantage of that if you aren't already. LinkedIn is another place where you can decide, do searches, find the group that you would like to be a member of that's relevant to the expertise that you're looking to portray. And then there are other platforms like Quora and Reddit where you can also go in and share your expertise. So those are really the 5 steps to getting started, or if you're already started, rebuild your brand. And again, when I say rebuild, you need to become, if you aren't already, become relevant in today's market. And with that, the key takeaways, again, just to recap, identify your expertise. Again, you may have 10 different things that you are an expert in, but pick one to get started and definitely elevate and escalate that. You don't have to write 10 articles or do 5 videos a month. Pick what works for you and the amount of time that you want to leverage. But please be consistent. If you decide that you're going to do a podcast or you're going to write, just be sure that you're doing it and you're keeping the rhythm going as you're building out the content, as you're engaging with people, and definitely be relevant. That's one of the things I said. And when we talk about companies or products, we often talk about purpose-driven brands, and how our brands helping companies that have pivoted to help save lives during the peak of the pandemic. Similarly, we as brands also need to be considered and be looked at a purpose-driven brand. So we are not always selling, we're engaging, we are being helpful. So again, these are just a few tips to keep in mind. And then the last thing I wanted to say is, of course, you can do it all yourself. And everything that I just gave you, the 5 points, you can do it at there's no cost, it's just your time. However, if you feel that you need help, of course, we are here. This is a shameless self-promotion. Sorry, Chico. But what we can do for you is you may have an idea and you want to run it by us, or you want us to review the content, or we can create your whole strategy, build it out for you, and then train you so that you can essentially execute it on your own. And that's my tips for today. And if there's anything that we can do to help you, questions, we are here for you. Chico?
Thanks, Parna. And I will open it up for some questions. For those that want to chat it in, we'll read those out and get your responses, or if you want to unmute. But I just want to take a moment. Parna, thank you so much. That was really useful information, I think, for all of us. But I saw in the chat, and I just wanted to recognize there's so many people on the chat, and it's really wonderful. We have people from around the globe, just so you know. There's Hungary, Tokyo, Jamaica, Netherlands, Qatar, Mexico, Denmark, Brazil, a lot of places across the US. So it's really nice to see this coming together from everyone globally. So I think branding, personal branding, and a digital presence is so important. But maybe I'll start off with a question, and we have London joining us. Parna, I'll start off with a question. We have a diverse group here. This is hosted by Women in Security. We also have some other members from ASIS, Executive Protection Community. We have young professionals. I'm wondering, for those that are early in their careers, do you have any additional advice if they don't know where to start and how to even begin thinking about their brand? Any advice on that?
Yeah, well, thank you all. This is really exciting. People from everywhere. I'm just starting to look at the chat now. So yes, absolutely. When you are just launching your career, I would say probably the hardest thing is to decide which specific expertise you want to focus on, because you're still learning. So I would suggest that you look for experts or influencers online, look for them, and then follow them and listen to what they're talking about. And that might give you a sense of what you're liking, what you don't like. And obviously internship is absolutely critical because that's how you get a flavor of all the different aspects of the security professional, the profession, and then you can decide what you really like. And perhaps then you get started on showcasing your expertise. But my suggestion is when you're starting out, be a sponge, and the digital world is the best place to be a sponge. You can decide you want to spend 15 minutes a day or 2 hours a month or more, and then just absorb and see what everybody is talking about and what's of interest to you.
Great advice. And maybe I'll pivot that and go to the other side of the continuum. There are a lot of senior leaders on this call, including, Godfred Hendricks, our president, and then we have Jamie Owens joining us as well, and a lot of, the folks that you see here on the call. For those that may have more senior roles, and have developed years of experience, Parna, is there any strategy around, if people are trying to pivot, if they're trying to reinvent themselves, recommendations on that?
Absolutely. So I think that the pivot is a given today because the world is different. Everything that we have done, learned even 3 months ago isn't quite relevant. Everything has a new flavor. So I would say take the expertise that you have, review the market, and see where best you can provide helpful tips, where you can share your expertise. And oftentimes, I might say to the senior executives is because of your experience and you know where the pivots are happening, why not consider giving a vision, like your vision of where the world is going to be post-COVID. So I would say turn yourself into a visionary, make some predictions. And most of the time you will probably be right because the world's not going to change that much. But then you come across as a thought leader, as somebody who has a vision, who is providing a perspective. And once you start talking and writing about it, who knows, you may be getting calls to be a speaker at an event, or the media may be calling you to get your perspective on what the security industry is going to look like post-COVID. So don't be shy, be bold, and go for it. Share your thoughts and expertise.
Great. And so I have a question here coming in. Thank you so much, Matthew Purcelli, from Young Professionals and also from the executive protection community. What's the importance of collecting your professional network and not being stagnant?
I'm assuming you're talking about having a vibrant network. So networking and having an engaging network is extremely important. Whether you're looking for a job, whether you're looking to have a conversation. And personally, I have to say that, as I mentioned, when I came to this country, I had no network, didn't know anybody. But all my jobs have come through people I know. And my company has been growing literally through word of mouth. I do know marketing. So it's really about the network. And I think there's two advantages that I see right now is, despite the pandemic and the lives lost and the struggles a lot of people are going through, it has also opened up opportunities for individuals as well as companies, and even if you are a startup or a freelancer. Why? Because we live in a virtual world. This is just an example, right? Here we are, people from everywhere, different countries, different cities are joining in. So leverage this virtual world, get to know people. And the second thing I would say is, it's something very simple to do is, and I do this, and maybe there are more things to do. So on LinkedIn, how they say today's so-and-so's birthday, it never hurts to just say, hey, happy birthday, hope you're doing well. So you don't have to talk to people all the time, but occasionally shoot a note to say how you doing, happy birthday. So you're still connecting and staying, staying engaged without, without getting, without stagnating. I think that was the word that was used. So
Thanks,
engage.
Thanks, Parna. I have a question here from Katie Weaver. How do you get target specific contacts within an area of my network? For example, I work in a specific market of the US, Arizona, New Mexico, and Vegas. So I would like to connect with professionals within those areas. I have joined local chapters, but what else can be done?
Great question. Remember, I said it's a virtual world. So LinkedIn is a great place. Do a search by the titles of the people, by location, and you can find, a whole long list of people who are listed by their title, their categories, and location. Shoot them a note. Also look for virtual events that are happening, because today, majority of the virtual events are free. So if you know that there is an event happening in your respective area, doesn't matter where it is, check it out, join. And how many people here? There's about 50 people here. So here we are, like 50 people that we are all connected, or hopefully we'll be connecting to after this, this session. So I think leverage that. The one thing that I suggest that we don't do, and it's a personal pet peeve of mine, and maybe it's not for all of you, but when you're connecting with somebody for the first time, don't sell, like be kind, and it's okay to say, hey, I read your article, or I saw you were speaking in so-and-so place. Congratulations, love the article. Or would you like to connect? So, it's just the very basic etiquette that we would use when we are talking to people in person. Use that in the social world as well. But it's definitely an opportunity market right now.
Great advice. Thank you so much. I know that you oftentimes speak or you host webinars. For those in our call today that may not have yet done that, maybe haven't built up the confidence, is there any advice you can give to those to maybe step out and take a speaking role? And if so, what would that be?
So let me share a secret with you. I was petrified of public speaking. And when I started my career here in this country, even if I had a team meeting of like 4 people, I couldn't speak because I was so afraid. And then my boss would tell me, Parna, you really have to like share your thoughts and you get to talking. Anyway, so I've come from there to here. Now, my company pivot during the pandemic was just that. Like I needed, in addition to creating all those virtual events that I just talked about, I also had to provide not just a platform, but also moderate those events. So that's kind of what got me out to speaking. And I, believe it or not, I still get knots in my stomach every time I have to speak. But in my mind, the reason I do this is because I'm helping an entrepreneur, or I'm helping a client, or I'm helping somebody by providing the platform, by helping tell their stories. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. And it's never, again, you're going out of your comfort zone. I'm going out of my comfort zone to do this. But if you don't do it, you'd never know. Give it a shot. Try doing it once or twice. And the other thing I would suggest is don't do a speaking by yourself if you're not comfortable. Maybe work with somebody and say, hey, can we do a panel discussion? Because then the spotlight is not on you alone. You're sharing your expertise along with 1 or 2 other person. And it's the moderator's role always is to make sure that you're making it comfortable for people who may even be not as comfortable to speak. But if the moderator can make it comfortable and make it easy for you, then then it really works. So that's a really great question. And my 2 cents is go do it. Don't be afraid.
Love that advice, and I agree. We need to get out of our comfort zones and stretch a little bit. So here's a great question, or asking for your opinion. Do you believe in the adage, it is who you know that gets you the job and what you know that keeps it?
I think the first part is relevant because it's who you know gets you the job, but it's up to you on how you keep the job, right? If you're there, if you get the job because of who you know, which is great, but you also know that the person have hired you for your specialty, for your expertise. I don't see anybody hiring anybody because it's going to be a blemish on that person's reputation. So you should feel comfortable if somebody has recommended you for a job and you're hired. But how you go from there is really up to you. You obviously have to do a good job. You got to network internally, and that the pie that I showed you up in the beginning, it's your 10%, you're going to be awesome at your job. 30%, make sure your team knows what you're doing, and then there's the other 60% where let the world know about what you're doing, both internally and externally. And one of the things that I hear, and I'm sure you have heard also, is that as women, we are not comfortable talking about ourselves or being the thought leader. But the reality is when you're doing it right, you're actually not self-promoting. You are showcasing your expertise by helping others or showing results or being a mentor to somebody. So I would say be yourself and don't be afraid to share what you know. Because we all have expertise, and I'm sure at least one person, if not more, would benefit from what we know. I hope that answers the question.
Great, thank you. And Susan Munn, thank you so much for this recommendation. I just wanted to share it with everyone in case you can't see the chat. It says, everyone check out Toastmasters to develop your speaking and meeting skills. We don't have a link, but there are chapters everywhere. And thanks, Jennifer, adding that, different chapters run things differently. So just finding one that's the right fit, but it's a great program. So appreciate
yeah,
that.
And I would agree with that. That's definitely a good place to start. And also look for local organizations. There's so many, nonprofits that you can be tied to. So it's low pressure, but a good place to get started without being too afraid.
Great. Here's a great question. Would volunteering be another opportunity to build your brand? Parna, what do you think about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Volunteering is extremely critical to, I think, everything we do. So in my case, I volunteer 50% of my time. That's why my husband says, you could be making more money if you didn't. But so I serve on multiple boards, and I think we know that it's let me rephrase that. Because I serve on multiple boards, one of the things that we try to do is when somebody is looking to volunteer, we want to know if they're the right fit to be working with that organization, because we want to make sure that if the volunteer wants to be a better marketer or a better security professional or what have you, that we are going to provide them the right platform, the right mentoring, the right opportunity, so they can actually develop their professional skills. So yes, absolutely, find the right organization to volunteer for, and you'll be amazed at how much you can learn.
Great, and thanks, Jennifer. For everyone that doesn't see the chat, the Toastmasters, it's Toastmasters, plural, one word, .org, in case anyone wants to look that up for additional information. Are there any other questions that anyone has? I mean, Parna is such a wealth of knowledge, and I'm just so grateful, Parna. Thank you so much for your time. This is really a treat to have someone like you with your expertise and just the people that you've helped build their brands over the years, and you yourself as such a great example. I think this is just a wonderful opportunity for all of us here to think about ways that we can maybe improve in this area and how we can challenge ourselves. I'm just seeing here. Oh, thank you, Yolanda. Here's a question from Maria. Maria, great to see you here. Any recommendations to position our personal brand internally within our organization? Great question.
That's a great question. Yes, absolutely. And again, I think this goes back to know what you want to be known for. I think that's that's really important. And what is the expertise that you want people to come to you for? And you can build brands in all kinds of ways. I mean, look for opportunities within the organization. You know, there might be projects that's being developed and they're looking for somebody to volunteer. Or you have an idea that will also showcase your expertise without saying, hey, it's my expertise, but volunteer to say, hey, this is what's happening in the market, or I just saw that, you know, our ex-customer needs this help. Why don't I take the initiative to build the program working with whoever? So I think that's extremely important. And also see if you can have like a mentor within the organization and a sponsor within the organization. I think those are just as important, because for those of you who may not know about the sponsors, you know, when you're not in the room, you need somebody to talk about you or propose you for a project, and that's what a sponsor does. So if you can find a mentor who can guide you through the organization and a sponsor who will actually support you and talk about you when you're not in the room, I think those are some good ways to start building your brand. But it all goes back to the first point that I said. It's credibility, it's building credibility, building trust, and building relationships.
Yeah, that is great, Parna. And I know people may find it hard to find a mentor or a sponsor. And like you said, it takes time to develop those relationships, building your credibility so that people can speak on your behalf. I know it's challenging, and I don't want to say anyone in particular, but I do know from my experience, sometimes women find this a little more challenging, and I don't know if it's being able to speak up or, you know, like you said earlier, I just read a great book called Brag Better, and it's not so much about bragging, but it's about being confident enough to share your experiences and skills and what you bring to the table. I do want to share, here's a great question. It would be great to know, Parna, if you have any advice or thoughts on balancing, expanding our network and connections while being mindful of how those connections represent themselves on those same platforms. How great is the potential to harming your own brand by accepting connection invitations from people who post inappropriate things, as an example? I've encountered varying perspectives on expanding networks versus vetting on platforms like LinkedIn.
Chico, I'm really sorry. You broke up in the first part, if you don't mind, or I can look for the question.
Yeah, I can reread it. And it really is about like thinking about people that ask you to connect. Should you, I'll reread the question, but it's basically, should we be vetting those that request connections with us? Like, for example, if individuals post things that maybe are inappropriate, can that impact your own brand, harm your brand? So I'll reread the question though to make sure I've got it right. It would be great to know if you have any advice or thoughts on balancing the expanding of your network and connections while being mindful of how those connections represent themselves on those same platforms. How great is the potential of harming your own personal brand by accepting connections or invitations from people who post inappropriate things, as an example? I've encountered varying perspectives on expanding networks versus vetting them on platforms, for example, like LinkedIn.
Right. No, that's a really good question. So I personally am very picky about who I connect with. So before the pandemic, I used to only connect with people I met or I know. Obviously that has changed. But also there are people on LinkedIn, I think they're called Lions, where they would connect with anybody and everybody just because they want to increase their follower numbers. So my recommendation is that unless you're planning to be an influencer and you're going to make money out of being an influencer, I would be picky about who you connect with. And so the people that I connect with usually are like, you know, people that I know because you've been on a chat with me virtually, who are entrepreneurs, who are technology experts, because that's my area. So I always like to see what are these people talking about. If you connect with somebody and you find that he or she is posting inappropriate stuff, they're badgering you about whatever, just unfriend them. LinkedIn has that option, absolutely. So I don't know if it's about harming your brand, because it's not you who's writing or posting the inappropriate stuff, but it could get annoying. So if that's the point, just disconnect with them. And I've done that. And to give you a very specific example, if this helps. So I did a virtual panel about a month ago, and this person friended everybody on that group, so which is fine. And then he sent me a note 3 times the same day, and it really annoyed me. And I said, okay, this is not appropriate. So I just, you know, I just deleted him from my LinkedIn. One of my team members sends me a note saying, hey, Parna, so-and-so pinged me, sent me this message 3 times, and I'm very uncomfortable with it. So we essentially, I said, okay, absolutely, like delete him from your thing. But as an organization, we actually, and this is one of the nonprofits that I work with. So as a board, we now have policy about, you know, if somebody's harassing you online, or if somebody has questions, or it makes you, the person makes you feel uncomfortable, these are the steps that we will take as an organization, because we are the ones hosting the events. But also, if the person does this to and he did this to all the women on the board. So it was very inappropriate, and so we kind of kept an eye on it. So yes, if somebody makes you uncomfortable or does things that you're not comfortable with, absolutely take them off your list. And if it's a bigger problem and you work with a company, or you want to send a note to LinkedIn to say, hey, you know, this is what happened, you should, because I personally feel that nobody should be bullied or harassed, no matter what the platform is. Even if it's virtual and the person makes you uncomfortable, you know, don't waste your time. That's me. I know it may sound, I don't know, condescending, but really, you don't have to deal with people who don't add value to your life.
Yeah, thank you, Parna. And I do want to say here, I love this. In a study, female leaders outperform male leaders, sorry to our male counterparts here, in 14 out of 16 key leadership characteristics, but we score lower on technical knowledge and the use of connections. That's really important. So thank you, Susan. Recommendation, everyone sign up for GSX Plus. Parna, this is an annual international conference that we have. And so that we can work on our technical aspects and really what Parna has shared here today. So that's fantastic. There's reference to a discount code. So if there is, please share it, or we'll make sure we let everyone know about that, as it would be, Susan's getting it for us. So thanks so much. We have a few minutes left. So any other questions for Parna? I'll give Susan a few minutes. And so Parna, you know, you and I met from another organization and a webinar. So I do want to touch on that. Like, Parna gives so many great talks and hosts fireside chats. And like she mentioned earlier, particularly right now during this pandemic and we're in a virtual setting, a lot of these are of no charge. It's your time. But I think there's so much value in attending these sessions. So, you know, I see that, Parna, you have them on LinkedIn. Is there anywhere else we could look to see where maybe some of your upcoming talks are?
Nope, it's like I said. I finally have a website that we created this year, earlier this year. It's still not complete, but I would say the best place to look for where I'm going to be is on LinkedIn. But again, it's less about where I'm going to be, because a lot of the times I am creating the platform and my clients are the ones who are speaking. So I would say if you just, you know, glance at my LinkedIn profile or the Brandon Bez corporate page, and between those two, you should be able to find it. Yes, for a marketer, I really suck at marketing my own business.
No, no, no. You're doing fantastic, and we appreciate the gems you've given us. Here's a really great question and comment. Wow. Keeping in mind, the higher you elevate yourself up the pedestal, the further you fall. So can you overbrand yourself, Parna?
That is a brilliant question. I think it depends on the area and the authenticity of your brand. Because, so if I take a simple example like politics, for example, right? You know, the minute you're running for an office, whether it's a president, vice president, what have you, people are going to come at you from every angle and try and bring you down. Not people, the competitors, I would say. But not every industry is that, they're not that critical. So I would say if you are speaking, if you stay focused on your expertise, you're authentic, you are empathetic, because that's just as important today. And it's not boastful knowledge. It's really being helpful. And, you know, if somebody asks a question about executive security, for example, and you are an expert, you absolutely should provide your point of view. And the other piece that I would say is, it's okay to say, in my opinion, you know, so my knowledge base is maybe this much. So I'm staying within my personal experience and my knowledge base when I'm giving you my 2 cents. So I think so long as people know it's your opinion and it's based on your experience, I think you're absolutely fine to build your brand. And again, I differentiate, and I have to say this, I differentiate thought leadership and building the brand. Both thought leadership and building a brand is a journey. It does not happen overnight. You're building your credibility and relationship takes time. But when I think of a personal brand, it's everything from how you dress, how you interact, you know, how you respond to people. Are you venting all the time? And even something simple as, okay, my corporate brand is purple, so I'm on brand. Like, you know, I wear my purple, I have my purple nails, I have everything purple. So that's like your personal brand. But thought leadership is a little bit more. It's strategic. It's your expertise. And yes, how you deliver it shows your personal brand. So if you're focused more on thought leadership to help grow your business, to get a promotion, to land a new career, I think you're absolutely fine showcasing your expertise. That's my 2 cents, in my personal opinion.
Thank you so much, Parna. Oh, I see that Godfrey, thanks so much. Our ASIS International President has been here. He needs to depart, so thanks so much, Godfrey. Great to have you here. Wonderful for all of our attendees. So I do want to say, Parna, thanks so much. This has been a fabulous hour just to hear from you and your experience, and really giving us some tools to take into our own personal branding and how we want to think about you strategically moving forward. And I think anyone from the start of their career to very senior executives can take a lot of the points that you've given us. So we really appreciate it. So thank you, Susan. Just before we close, I do want to say ASIS membership rates are at 50% until December 2020. There's a link here. We'll make sure that we also post that. We have some other thank yous to hear Parna. I do want to say thanks to Courtney Adante. I'm not sure if she was able to make it today, but she is my co-chair on the Women in Security Career Development, Professional Development. Loy Manning, who is our community chair, is here. Thank you so much for helping us host this. And to everyone that's attended, thank you for giving us this time. We hope that you have received something useful here. We will post this recording on the community page, so those of you can refer back to it as well. But Parna, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to see you, and we look forward to our paths crossing again soon. Wishing you the best.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful and humbled that all of you could join us today. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Chico. Much appreciated. Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you.